Once upon a time, in a lush and vibrant jungle, the animals were getting ready for their daily routines. The birds were tweeting from the trees, the monkeys were chattering, and the lions were roaring. It was just another beautiful day in the jungle. Then suddenly, one morning, everything changed. When the mighty Lion King woke up, he felt something was not right. He opened his mouth to give his morning roar, but instead of a powerful growl, a tiny squeaky chirp came out. The Lion King panicked. What was happening to his voice? Was he losing his roar? Meanwhile, high up in the branches of a tall tree, the tiny gray parrot was happily preening his feathers when he heard a strange noise. It was a loud, deep voice coming from the direction of the Lion King's den. Curious, he flew over to investigate. As he got closer, he heard the Lion King trying to roar again and again, but all that came out was a series of squeaks. At first, the parrot couldn't believe what he was hearing. Then he started to giggle uncontrollably. The Lion King, confused and frustrated by his squeaking and unable to understand why, let out a squeak of annoyance at the laughing parrot. "Why are you laughing?" he asked. "I don't know," the parrot replied between laughs. "It's just that you sound so funny. You sound like a little mouse instead of the mighty Lion King." The Lion King was furious. He wanted to roar with anger, but all that came out was a squeak. Just then, the wise old monkey appeared on a nearby branch. He had heard the commotion and was curious to see what was going on. When he saw the Lion King squeaking and the parrot laughing, he stopped to observe. After listening to the conversation between the two, the old monkey understood what was happening. The magical abilities of the parrot had somehow swapped the voices of the animals. But why? And how could they fix it? No one knew, but they needed to find the answer quickly. The jungle was in chaos and no one could communicate with their own voice. As the news of the voice swap spread through the jungle, more and more animals came to the clearing to talk to the Lion King, but only squeaks came out. The elephant tried to trumpet, but all that came out was a croaking frog sound. The giraffe tried to say hello, but sounded like a distressed hyena. Even the slithering snake couldn't hiss and sounded like a frightened little mouse. The animals were starting to panic. They couldn't communicate with each other or warn each other of danger. The jungle was in chaos. In the midst of the pandemonium, the parrot was enjoying the attention. He loved being in the center of the action and hearing all the different animal sounds. To him, it was just a big game. However, the others were not amused. The Lion King, the old monkey, and the cheeky leopard decided to take matters into their own paws, beaks, and teeth. They would find a way to fix this, even if it took all day. First, they needed to figure out why the animals' voices had been swapped. They questioned every animal they met, but no one had any answers. All they knew was that they didn't feel sick, and nothing had happened to them overnight. The animals continued to practice speaking, but all their attempts resulted in funny sounds. The zebra sounded like a cackling hen, the spotted hyena like a gentle lamb, and the sly fox like a confused owl. The animals were starting to lose hope. Would they be stuck with these voices forever? The Lion King was pacing back and forth in his den, trying to practice his roar, but all that came out was a squeak. He missed his powerful voice and felt helpless without it. Meanwhile, the parrot was swinging from branch to branch, imitating the sounds of the other animals. He was having too much fun, and it didn't seem to bother him at all that the others were upset. The old monkey sat on a low-hanging branch, thinking hard about the problem. He had to admit he'd never seen anything like this happen in the jungle before. Suddenly, he had an idea. Maybe the solution wasn't in fixing the voices, but in talking without them. He called for the Lion King and the leopard, and they approached cautiously. The old monkey explained his idea to them, and they listened carefully. Together, the three friends came up with a plan. They would hold a meeting of all the animals in the jungle to discuss the situation. They would figure out a way to communicate without their voices so they could figure out a solution. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they had to try. As the sun rose higher in the sky, the animals started to gather in the clearing. There were so many different species, from the tiniest insects to the largest mammals. The animals were nervous, but excited to have a chance to talk about the problem and maybe find a solution. The Lion King walked up to a log and sat down, trying to remember what it was like to use his powerful voice. The old monkey sat beside him, nodding encouragingly. The leopard sat on a nearby rock, watching the other animals curiously. As the animals settled down, the old monkey cleared his throat and gestured to the Lion King with his hand. The Lion King nodded and tried to speak, but all that came out was a squeak. The animals gasped. They had forgotten how strange the voices had become. The Lion King shook his head, embarrassed, and looked down at his paws. He missed his voice, and he missed being respected by the other animals. The old monkey put a comforting hand on the Lion King's shoulder and motioned for him to try again. The Lion King took a deep breath and tried to say, "Friends, we have a problem," but all that came out was a squeak. The animals laughed, and the Lion King felt his face getting hot with embarrassment. He wanted to disappear, but then a small voice piped up. It was the gray parrot, and he was sitting on a branch above the animals, swinging his tail back and forth. "I think I can help," he said. "You want to talk? I'll listen." The animals looked at each other and nodded. One by one, they told the parrot about the problem, mimicking the sounds they made instead of their own voices. The parrot listened patiently and took notes, tilting his head from side to side. When they were done, he thanked them and flew up to the top of the tallest tree. The animals waited anxiously, wondering what the parrot would do next. Suddenly, the parrot started to speak, but instead of squeaks, growls, and chirps, real animal sounds came out of his mouth. The animals were stunned. The parrot had fixed their voices. He had used his magical abilities to swap the sounds back so everyone could speak their own language again. The animals cheered and thanked the parrot, and the Lion King was finally able to roar again. It echoed through the jungle, letting everyone know that their voices were back. From that day on, the animals of the jungle lived happily ever after, communicating with each other in their own voices and respecting each other's differences. The parrot still loved to imitate the other animals, but now he did it with their permission, and they all had a good laugh. And so the jungle was filled with the sounds of birds tweeting, monkeys chattering, lions roaring, and elephants trumpeting once again. The moral of the story is that even when things seem bad, we should never give up hope. With a little bit of creativity and teamwork, we can solve any problem. If you liked this story, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe for more adventures. Until next time, keep being kind and keep believing in happy endings.